Hey, I'm Dan.
And I'm Matt.
And today I'm going to try to convince Matt to get into the Half-Life series, and he
is going to present InFamous to Dan. I'm actually quite surprised he hasn't played this. You're probably going to hear a lot of that type of statement if we keep doing this kind of series, because I'm genuinely surprised at each of these franchises.
I like talking about I'm surprised, that you don't play some of the things. You
That's
know what I mean?
fair.
And you're surprised. I mean, vice versa. It's good.
That's
so
true, too.
I like talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're fun.
There you go.
Nerd dump. I forgot our own theme song. Nerd dump. So, InFamous. InFamous 2. And if we really want to go into it, there are a few other sequels, but they're a little bit less connected. I'm going to focus here on InFamous Part 1. But of course, if Dan's into this, Part 2 will be 100% on the table.
Yeah, sell me on the main titles.
So essentially, what we're doing here, InFamous follows the superhero culture in its essence, but what it is it's an open world video game. You play as this courier named Cole McGrath. And there's suddenly an explosion in the middle of the city from a package that you're carrying. And you wake up from this explosion, you're running around through all this chaos and death, and you're trying to understand what's happening. And all this lightning storm starts happening, and all this crazy stuff. Skip ahead a little ways, this whole city is under a quarantine. That word still hits a little close to home. But,
why is that? I don't understand.
So after this explosion, it's basically like there's been weird stuff happening in the city. Like mutations and monsters and sightings, and just anomalies are happening. And you start to realize that you, against your will, essentially, are harnessing electricity and lightning, and every day those things keep escalating.
Right.
So you are off on this quest to figure out what the heck is going on with you. But as you go, the game is very karma-based. So you can start making decisions and forks in the road that are either selfish.
Is it like Knights of the Old Republic in a way?
Maybe in a sense.
In that sense of it?
Yeah, like you make decisions where you have the option that are very distinct. Like, I can help others or do something selfish. Other times you can freely just come and go do things, like you can hurt people and take things, or you can help people and do things. I would argue the harder version of the game is the hero version, because you have to do everything more precisely and carefully.
Halo's legendary.
I would say that also would be acceptable in this comparison. But amid this, there's actually a pretty heavy story going on. There's this group called the First Sons, who...
Oh, no.
I know. These guys are doing a lot of mischievous things in the city, among other gangs. The first one, you're going to have a... I'm just jumping all over the place here, I apologize, but street gangs called the Reapers. These basically army of homeless people have banded together in another district where they're tearing it up, and they're called the Dustmen.
Oh, shit.
And then, like I said, the First Sons are kind of behind all this other stuff. They're more militant, a little more organized. So as you go, you got more escalating problems.
So you get more militant homeless people as you go.
Well, no, the First Sons aren't homeless.
Oh, okay.
There's different factions of people who have rose up in this quarantine and are trying to take over the city. It's like a martial law situation.
Do the homeless people take over all the intersections of each road?
A little bit. They basically cover themselves in trash as armor, and there's a lot of commentary from our main character about that. But there's a lot going on here. Essentially, during this explosion, you don't have much of a good memory, but you realize that your girlfriend, her sister, was in the same area when this happened. So at that ground zero, you killed her sister, which kind of wrecked your relationship. So you learn as you go that you're attempting to repair this because she doesn't really understand what to think of you. And as you go through the game, it's another big factor in the story regarding how that unfolds in terms of what kind of choices are you making, what kind of direction are you going. And the cat just knocked over some stuff. And it's one of those neat ideas because it's like early PS3, so they weren't able to exploit the full...
This is like a 2007 game or something?
Not that early. This is like 2009, 2010. I think it's released. It might be 2011, but I think it was right there. So they didn't have that full range of the visual and graphics capacity yet. And I think the game had a slightly lower budget in its design because when 2 comes out, the production value rockets.
What's 2 on? Is that on PS3 as well?
Yeah, but Part 2 skyrockets in production. No, it's a PlayStation.
PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah. So it's just such a great story. I know I'm being a little vague with some things and I'm jumping around, but there's surprises and reveals. I haven't talked about a specific character yet. There is someone behind everything going on.
Who's the main guy? Your
character is Cole McGrath.
Cole McGrath.
Yeah, you're a 20-something career. You're kind of a like, I won't say loser, but like think like educational dropout. Doesn't really amount to much. Just a guy.
Cole McGrath sounds like an all-American name.
It kind of does. And you have a background that you have as a hobby. Cole likes to be urban exploration. He likes to climb things and just do stuff. So that's also your way of getting around the city. Is you have a lot of climbing and traversing things. You're just very adept physically already, so that helps you. But using your like powers, they keep escalating and growing, and it's all lightning and electricity based. So it gives you this cool interactive sense with the way you do combat and the way that you engage situations and environments. Despite it not utilizing the PlayStation 3's full power, it still does this great development, I think. And despite its earlier design compared to games that would come after it, I still think the story is very solid in that game. And there's people online who I've seen kind of like this or that about it. But like the first time I ever played it through was during that legendary PSN hack back in like 2011. And they did a thing where once it was fixed, they gave out like a bunch of free game titles to choose. And I chose this one on that list. I don't know if it was the same for everybody or if it was more just different ones for different people. And that's when I picked it up. I'm like, I'll try this game. I started playing it, and I was in there for like an hour the first time, and I was like, I didn't know what to expect from this, but I have no clue where this is going. And then as I got through, I beat the game for the first time, and I did it hero mode. That's the path I stuck to, which you can break at any point, by the way. You can kind of do whatever you want. But I was legit like blown away with it. I was like, this game is freaking awesome and fairly unpredictable if you genuinely don't know what to look for. The main villain, the way all that plays out too, has a really cool hook to how that works, because it opens the door for like, I know there's an extended universe through like comic book lore and stuff for this. I haven't gotten to really read into those too much, but there's a lot of other directions the series goes in that regard.
There's comics based on the...
Yeah, they're from the game.
Based on the game, or the game's based on
No,
comics?
They're based on the game. Like an extended universe. But the main primary sequel is the second game, which I'm going to only abridge here because I'm just trying to get you on the first game. I think the first game is a better game. But part 2 is a good sequel because it picks up 6 months after what the first one set up, which was very deliberately set up, but never paid off. And you're kind of like scratching your head. And then realizing, oh, this stuff is just supposed to go. And once it all goes into motion, you go to the Deep South, a place called New Marais, which is essentially it's New Orleans. And there's been a flood, and this militia takes over the town. There's a whole bunch going on for different reasons. So you're dealing with that, where you're either trying to help with stuff or you do your own selfish thing. And that picks up the threads from the first game and lets them run hard in a direction where, again, the ending of the second one is a little bit more polarized than the first game, which the good or bad ending is a little bit... It's more like, okay, cool, things are red or things are blue. Not really too direct, but this one has a much more drastic hero versus villain ending. But the canon ending in InFamous and the canon story in InFamous, I believe, is hero. So, if you played the games, what do you enjoy? What is your take on InFamous? I am clearly an all-over-the-place description tonight, but... Do you like the first game, the second game? Do you like the sequels? There's Second Son, there's First Light. There might be another one, I can't remember. I really haven't played them. They didn't draw me in as well.
Are those like side games that come out for it?
Well, they're sequels. They just they pick up with new characters in new worlds and stuff. So it's like there's some time jumping and stuff.
Side games.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
they're full games. But
Resident Evil Gun Survivor or something.
Yeah, same universe.
All right, that's what I'm saying. It's like some little offshoots.
I've heard First Light actually isn't bad. I just haven't picked it up. So different power sets. I'll also say really quick. Remember the Inhumans in Marvel?
No.
So Inhumans in Marvel were basically X-Men, except they required a catalyst to activate their powers.
All right, I remember you talking about
this lore, they're called conduits. And the lore is a little muggy between the games, but essentially humans already have a genetic disposition in one direction or another, and they find this energy source that can trigger that. So basically, there's like this energy signature that's like a bomb. If you're caught in that, if you happen to be having those right genetics, it can potentially unlock those powers and potentials. If not, and you're not dead, it'll basically, it's kind of like radiation. Like, you'll just start to get sick. There's a plague running around, too, I forgot to mention, in both these quarantine zones. A plague is running rampant through the people. That's part of the main reason of the quarantine. Again, I don't know why I didn't start off with that, because it's pretty relevant to this day and age. But, I know, that got dark. But yes.
Yeah, I know you guys started with the quarantine thing, and then just kind of...
I kind of wandered away. We've been
Bring it back over here.
So yeah, but yeah, you know, and those who have the powers, the conduits, are unaffected by the plague. In fact, they get stronger, they get healthier. But in many ways, just kind of if you think X-Men or Inhumans, it can go in so many unpredictable directions that you don't know what you're going to be disposed to. You don't know what's going to come out of that. And a lot of it has to do with the kind of person you are. So if you're just like a really terrible person and you happen to have a conduit gene that gets accessed, that could be a problem too. And we do explore a little of that in the game.
Can you lose the game being a bad person in it?
No, the game has two...
I'll check it out.
You can do whatever you want, but like I know that like completionists like to go one extreme or the other in how you choose your missions, and you can go back and forth if you want, but the higher level you achieve in either direction allows you access to much better use of your powers, like more powerful versions of certain attacks, and then like more... The second game does more with this than the first game, but like the second game gives you kind of a totally different power spectrum, good or evil. The first one is more, it's not too different. You get like red lightning eventually, I think, versus blue lightning.
Okay.
But you can get a couple other power bonuses on the evil side.
Okay.
But like, that's why I said the hero version would be the easier version, I think, because the evil version, you don't really have to worry about anything you do. Like, you can go nuts, but the hero one, you got to be really precise.
Oh,
really
they make it like a little more...
Collateral damage, civilian injuries, you have to completely avoid.
It's more
that
difficult
stuff.
doing hero version.
And you're definitely a mass damage type of character.
Yeah.
Like, think bigger powers, like the ionic storms. You bring down these, like, huge swaths of lightning that start coming out of the sky. It's, like,
so
really
like
destructive.
Thor, almost.
Kinda, yeah.
So you have to be careful.
It's pretty badass.
And if you don't want to be careful, you can still play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You can do whatever you want. Like, it's not super hard in that regard, and you don't have a massive enemy variety, but you do have some creative ones. Again, they're a little head-scratching at first because you haven't been immersed into this lore better, but it does a good job at slowly explaining itself.
But you get to destroy homeless people in it.
The homeless people put up a fight.
I bet they do.
They do, and actually, there's some particular ones that come later into that, man. Like the golems,
right?
You gotta do that, and there's this super boss.
I've seen golems on the side of the road before.
Made of trash that you have to fight. It's like throwing cars at you and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna check this game out.
It's fun. I think it's fun. I don't know. I'm not as confident if this will be like a, hit the ground running for you. Like I still feel about The Last of Us, but I still feel like you could have fun with it. Maybe. Okay. It's a likable character set, a solid story. In my opinion, it is one of my personal favorites of all time. I'm going to stand by that. InFamous Part 1 is one of my, all-time favorites. I don't know why, but it stuck with me. So.
Well, you know what? I think you've sold me on the game. Sounds like it's fun.
It is very fun.
I'll get a hold of that one. Surprised, obviously surprised I don't have it already.
I know.
But, yeah. Sounds like a good game, Matt.
It's fun, man. Again, if you like it, I think I will say it for any new player, it's a game you'll know if you like it somewhere in the first 30, 40 minutes.
Well, I like that choose your light or dark side kind of...
You can do it randomly and it will, so that works too. You don't have to be stuck to one direction. You can mix and match. You just limit yourself to what you can unlock.
Everyone likes being the good guy all the time in a video game. Sometimes you just want to be a bad guy.
You can do it. And your character will change the way he interacts, the way people interact with him.
Yeah.
The way things play out will be slightly different too. Second game, again, more drastically than the first in terms of how those directions go.
Well, that sounds good. I think you did your job today.
I think I did my
Pitching
job.
this game to me.
Yeah.
Now
you.
I'm going to talk to you about the Half-Life franchise.
Oh, man. I know there's a guy with glasses and a beard.
That's Gordon Freeman.
On the box.
So, Half-Life came out the same year as Ocarina of Time.
That far back?
Yeah, 98. It was one of the... You know how Ocarina of Time was this game that really showed how you could use 3D space? 98, the 3D adventure game.
It was the landmark.
Right. the same way as Half-Life, what Half-Life did for the first-person shooter. They opened up more, because you had things like Quake. Quake was popular. You remember Quake and the Doom series and everything like that. And Half-Life opened up, it came out on PC first. They eventually released it on PS2, but it was really good. I mean, it was the old school first-person shooter where you could, you had as you collected weapons, you kept them through the whole game. Remember those ones?
Yeah.
They don't really do that anymore,
Yeah. A little disappointing sometimes.
It was like that. You're Gordon Freeman. He's like this physicist. And you start the game off, and this is something else they did too with the franchise, or that franchise did really well, was they did the narrative, the interactive narrative, where you can choose to experience the story of the game or not. And it never took you out of the gameplay to experience the story. There's no cutscenes, nothing like that.
Okay, so you could kind of negotiate what you do and don't want to interact with to
right. So you get to there. You're Gordon Freeman. You go into this facility at Black Mesa. It's like in New Mexico, and you go underground. You take this long train ride through it, and you're seeing all the facility everywhere around you. It's a long opening scene, but you get there. This. You get to your facility and you do a little interactive things. Learn a little controls. You know how games do.
Of course, you got to learn how to.
And then you start this thing. You go into this room, and they're doing an experiment, and you push this like crystal-like thing into this. I don't know. It's like a beam coming down, and you start what's called the the Cascade Residence. A Residence Cascade. It's either what I can't remember.
Resident Cascade.
But what happens is all of a sudden you start getting flashes. And you start seeing these aliens, and then you're back. Shoot. Everything's
so we got like an alien thing going on.
This is a sci-fi horror game.
All right.
The first one is a sci-fi horror game, and so what happens is all these the worlds kind of merge where you just were, versus where you're at now on Earth, and
like Doom.
You know what? A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Or you've opened the portal at least, but it brought all these aliens. Some of them start actually zooming in.
They're always evil, man.
Or zapping in there. Well, they're actually not, but they elaborate on that more later in the franchise.
Okay.
But yeah, the storyline is then now you're trying to get out. Now the government's aware of what's going on in this facility, so they start sending in people to kill everything. And scientists, you included, and the aliens. Great. So you're fighting aliens, you're fighting scientists, or not scientists, I'm sorry, you're fighting aliens, you're fighting the military. This is really good, and your goal is to get out. And at the end of it, after you've gotten out, there's this guy you see. They call him the G-Man. He doesn't have like an official name, but that's just his name now, the G-Man.
The G-Virus.
No, and he's this guy. You see him a couple times if you choose to in the game.
All right.
He'll be like through a window or something. You'll see him, and he'll just like do something like close a suitcase, look at you, and then walk out. And when you get to the end of the game, after you defeat the Nihilith, I always say that wrong, Nihilith. It's when you're in the alien world, you have to defeat this big thing that's controlling all the aliens.
Naturally.
It looks like a big baby. It's kind of creepy looking, but and it's got those 64-bit graphics, but on computer, so it's really smooth.
That's what I was about to ask you. Not to digress, but really quick, it's bothering, driving me crazy. If you already said it, I'm sorry, but what platform did this first drop on?
Well, it dropped on PC. It's from Valve.
Okay, because I remember you said that era from Ocarina and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what console or what platform?
Well, at this point in the 90s, computers have finally surpassed consoles. It took them a while. They couldn't do it for a while. Now they've surpassed it, but it's a 64-bit game, but it looks a lot cleaner than a 64 or a PS1 was 32, or you know what I mean. It looks a lot cleaner than that. So you defeat the Nihilith, which is this giant baby thing that's controlling all the aliens. And this G-Man, he looks like a regular guy. He's in a business suit and everything. He stasises you. He freezes you. And he's talking to you, and you can actually choose after he's done talking. He talks about how you can help him benefit. He talks about his employers, and if you choose to help him or agree with him, that's the end of the game. If you don't, he'll zap you to a place where all these aliens just start killing you, and that's the end of the game as well.
Dang, that's wild. What's the canon ending? Well,
the one where you choose to
help him.
Not really help him, but you're agreeing with him.
Okay, I'm just curious.
You're agreeing to go along with what he's not. No one knows because they ended this franchise back in 2008, I think.
Okay, so I thought it was still going a little bit.
Well, they did. They made Alex. They made the VR game Alex 2 years ago.
Okay.
Half-Life Alex, but it's a prequel to or it's like a prequel to Half-Life 2. It's in between Half-Life 1. So it doesn't really elaborate on the game, but they showed a little snippet at the end of it where, okay, they're going to make another one.
All right.
You know for sure they're going to.
I can dig that.
But it's Valve, so you don't know.
All right, no, that's...
But,
shoot. Pretty
so wild. The second game picks up, right? Half-Life 2. It's like 20 years in the future. You wake up and you're getting put on this train and everything. And this, oh, I forgot their name. Oh my god, it's the Collective? Not the Collective, but,
The Collective.
The Collective.
The Collective.
It's this other alien race that comes in and they found out that this happened and they come down and they take over Earth.
Clendathu.
They take over Earth in like 7 hours.
Oh, crap.
And you come into this world and you meet some of the...
Saiyans.
The Saiyans, yeah.
The Saiyans.
You come into it, you take another like long train ride kind of opening sequence, and you interact and you find out kind of what's going on. And come to find out, eventually, it's shortly into the gameplay that you run into some of the people from the facility you were in one. They're a little older. And that's what Alex is. It's a girl, a daughter of one of the scientists from the first game. It's kind of retconned. They retcon a lot of stuff in this one.
Okay.
Because they didn't know if they were going to make a second one.
True, I guess.
So a lot of stuff gets retconned in this one. It's all these people from the old Black Mesa facility. One of the guys who ran the Black Mesa facility is actually, he made a deal with the aliens when they were invading. And now he's running Earth, basically. But not really, they're running him. But
the ruler of the world.
And then there's like 3 or 4 different scientists you run into throughout the game and interact with a lot. That were also from Black Mesa, and one of them has a daughter, and then you start working with her in the game a little bit, off and on. They introduced a physics into this game, though. This is 2004 now, so it was new at the time. It's not impressive now, but they made it to where everything interacted with you.
Okay.
And they made this thing called the gravity gun, and you could see there's like a barrel against the wall over there. You could take this particular gun out, point at it, and it would pull it towards you. You could shoot at anything.
That's kind of handy.
And it would make things move, like things would move in the environment, you know what I mean? Which was new, 2004.
Yeah, I know, that's a nice...
it's GameCube, PS2, and Xbox original time, you know?
Yeah, alright.
And that was one of their big things, because Valve, for some reason, to make a game, they have to make it break through, you know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong with that, either.
There's nothing wrong with it, but they do the same gameplay. It's a first-person shooter. You keep your gun, you keep your weapons as you pick them up. Until the very end, everything gets taken from you except for the gravity gun, but it gets supercharged at the end. So
nice.
But they did the narrative thing where you can just you'll sometimes be stuck in a room while the narrative's going on, and you can just walk away and look at things and stuff. You know what I mean? And you can hear it. And it'll sound like you're over here and you hear it like this, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
They did a really good job with keeping that selective narrative, you know what I mean? You can just keep playing the game and interacting with your environment.
You can choose to learn more.
Yeah.
I mean, I could respect that, especially if you already know the game and you want to go for like a speed run or something.
I will say this about 2. It's a good game, but
it's a sequel. There's
a couple parts that someone like me who doesn't like, there's these long drawn out parts in it where you're driving vehicles. And it feels, I mean, in between the vehicle riding, you're getting out and clearing areas out and stuff and finding things, but just the part you're in an airboat-like thing for a while on the water, and you get bored with it.
Okay.
And then you're in a vehicle for a while going through like this deserty kind of area, encountering the same enemies over and over again. It kind of gets drawn out.
I gotcha, yeah.
But overall, so you get to the end of the game, that G-Man at the end of this game, after you beat this one, intercedes?
Interrupts,
yeah. I'm sorry.
Intercedes.
I'm sorry, guys. He interrupts what's happening. You blow up this big facility, and he stasis time in you, and he grabs you again, right? And then these things from the first game, these alien race that were under control of that Nyland thing, they're now helping humanity out. Because they were under control of that one alien, you set them free. Now they're helping you. They can actually teleport and communicate and all these different things. They actually save you from the G-Man. So that's pretty cool. But then after 2, they did Half-Life 2 Episode 1, then Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Or Episode 2. Sorry, it's weird. It's like Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2. And then that's where they ended the game.
Okay.
But you see the G-Man a few more times in those, and then you see him, and they made the VR version, and you see him near the end of that one. Alex actually interacts with him. Apparently, her father, in the game also interacts with him. But like I said, a lot of the stuff from the first one gets retconned into the second. But if you don't care about the story too much, it's not that big of a deal. But they're really good games. They always did something that upped the ante for video games. You know what I mean? They made the best. It was like one of the game, I believe, Game of the Year.
Are you talking about Valve or Half-Life?
Half-Life 1.
Okay.
It was like Game of the Year for first-person shooter. And then the second one, they won all kinds of freaking awards and everything.
I've heard a lot about it. I just never, oh man, sorry. Tired. I don't, it's those, I just never picked them up, and I've never really been a PC gamer. I've gotten some flack about this before.
Yeah.
I've honestly just never really had the hardware to be able to really game on a PC. But to be honest, maybe it comes from my upbringing, the way I got used to stuff. That's what I thought. I've seen
they released console. Them on
I grew up more console gaming anyway, though, and I've tried PC gaming, and you know what? Teach their own. It's awesome. I think whether it's out of habit or nostalgia, I just prefer the console style.
Yeah.
There's too many control factors with PC gaming for me, and I'm like, ADHD, getting out of control here.
The good thing about, if you want to experience Half-Life 1, you're probably going to have to do it on PC, but the good thing is any PC they make now, even the crappiest ones, can play that game, because it's from 98.
Older games,
They did release it for PS2. That copy is a little more expensive to get a hold of now. That's
okay.
why I don't have it.
That's all right.
Half-Life 2, I have two versions. I have one on the Xbox original, then I have the orange box that they released for PS3 and Xbox 360.
Yes.
That one has Half-Life 2, then the Episode 1 and Episode 2 for it.
Okay.
So that's like the whole experience
collector's
there.
edition kind of, yeah.
So, I mean, you can get a hold of those ones easily. I think I purchased the orange box last year for like $12.
Oh, shoot.
So it's got 5 games on it. It's got the first Portal game, those Half-Life 2, then Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and then it's got Team Fortress on it. So it's a good bargain. I mean,
actually, wow.
You won't be able to play the multiplayer on them anymore, but which was what Team Fortress basically was just a multiplayer game. But it's a good deal, and I think they're a really good game. I don't know if I've sold you on it.
It sounds interesting by a lot, because I like the premise. I love the, I don't know what it is, but like those kind of sci-fi twists, the plots. They're just always fascinating.
They are sci-fi games.
I've heard a lot about Half-Life. It's just another one of the many titles that's kind of gotten off my radar too many times, where I just never quite was in that perfect storm of this is in front of me. I'm feeling the mood. It looks interesting, and I can sit down and just jump in. So I know that if I started, I probably would really like it. It sounds already like the kind of thing I would get into. So those kind of narratives and stories and character designs I always find really interesting, because I have a picture in my head of what I think everything is. Yeah. But it's in my head. I really have not watched much on these games. Yeah. So I don't really know what these characters look like. Like G-Man, I have all kinds of things I'm trying to picture what this
He just looks like a proper guy with hair about your color, maybe a little darker. Very clean shaven. He's a thin guy with a suit on. He always has a briefcase, and then he's just...
I'm picturing...
You don't know what he is. He's definitely not a human being, that's for sure. But he looks just like a person.
I'm picturing an evil Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, he looks older than that, though.
An evil, older Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, his facial features are too, sharp. And,
all right. It's weird. I'll find somebody.
But you don't know, because, like I said, in 2007 or whatever it was when they released Half-Life Episode 2... They just stopped the franchise for over 12 years.
It's wild when that stuff happens.
And then they made a in-between game of games that already existed, so they never elaborated on the lore. Well, you've convinced me to play InFamous. I hope that I was able to make you more interested in playing Half-Life.
I definitely want to pick it up sometime and dive in.
I've got them if you ever want to borrow.
I love that old, that late 90s era. There's a lot of good things that came out of there. A lot of fun.
Especially the first one actually has voice acting in it.
Nice.
And it's not bad.
Which you didn't see as much of.
No. Well, it's PC, so there's a little more. But it's not bad. Especially
I'm the G-Man.
2004, you got to keep in mind, Mega Man X games were still coming out in 2004. And Half-Life 2 came out in 2004. It has excellent voice acting in it. They really do a good job.
As long as Half-Life isn't Mega Man X7.
Well, I think we need to cut this video off.
I think we do.
It's a little long.
I've been Matt.
It's a little long in the tooth. And I've been Dan.
I've been Matt, and that's been Dan.
And this has been...
Nerd Dump.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Sit there in silence. All right, we good? Got a nice negative space on each side of us equally. All right. All right. Hey, I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
And today we're going to be talking about...
video games. Dan's going to try to convince me to play Half-Life.
And I'm
going to try to convince him to play InFamous.
Can we start again?
Yeah. Nerd Dump! I forgot our own theme song. Nerd Dump!